Hello again everyone, Brian here with BMK Retro Gaming, and here we go with video 2. We're going to be in this case reviewing the Atari VCS 2600. I tend to call it that because some people prefer the original name, the VCS, Video Computer System, while some others are perfectly fine with the 2600, the designation it got after the Atari 5200, its successor, was released, which basically, as it goes, was twice as powerful, so the designation switched over to being a number. Now, unfortunately myself, I do not own an original Atari VCS 2600, Atari 7800, or such, but I do have some equivalent of original hardware, which is what I use currently. This is the Intellivision system changer for the Mattel Intellivision 2, and a Mattel Intellivision 1 can be modified to use it also. And you can see it has everything, your switches and your cartridge slot. Not sure if I've got that close enough for you to see very well. Must forgive me, the lighting in here is pretty terrible. But you've got a reset button, A and B left difficulty, A and B right difficulty, black and white color for it, and a game select. And basically this just plugs into your Mattel Intellivision or Mattel Intellivision 2, and it is basically a hardware clone of the Atari VCS 2600 and will work pretty much the same as original hardware with no problem. Though with some games it presents a few minor issues, such as perhaps the sound being a bit off and such, but other than that it will perform basically the same way as your original hardware would in most cases. And that's what I play a lot of my original library on, and though not all of it, and a good deal of my homebrews. Secondly, I get a bit into emulation, especially with the VCS 2600, and as such, I bought last year the Hyperkin Retron 77, which is technically very good. It is, as I term it, a emulation hardware clone in terms of that it uses Stella emulation primarily, while at the same time it does have some minor hardware components, such as the cartridge slot is basically the same. You can kind of see the picture. The controller is nice and comfortable with two buttons, so it can be either left-handed or right-handed. And with a good Stella firmware update, from the original box state, it actually can do and plays a lot more, and is really not bad at all for entry level. And well, since, as I'd said in my first video, I missed the heyday back in the day, I never really owned an original Atari VCS 2600, Atari 7800, or any of that as of yet. I should be acquiring an Atari 7800, Atari 5200, and Atari Zegs in the not-too-distant future, and we'll be able to get more into that. But for the time being, my videos are probably going to focus more around the Atari VCS 2600 and the Intellivision to start with. And I've got a CollectorVision Phoenix coming too, which will do pretty much all the same things as your original CIB, ColecoVision, and then some. And we'll get into that more later. Anyway, I'm going to include a link to a Wikipedia article, which I know they're not always the absolute best source of information, but they do have a good deal of informative content. And basically with the VCS 2600, it started life and was released into test markets in 1977, so it's 77 hardware, and it got its main release in 1978, and it wasn't really discontinued until sometime in 1992, so quite possibly the most long-lived, or the home video game console with the absolute longest, how you'd say, main retail life before becoming retro, necessarily. You'll actually find a lot of these consoles and all stuck around about that long, at least in niche markets and aftermarkets. Even though you wouldn't have gone in, people been to, oh, no, you want the Nintendo NES or something like that, unless you went to the store and said, no, I'm actually looking for a ColecoVision, Intellivision, or one of the Ataris. They were going to try to persuade you otherwise, or so it's said. I don't know. When I was 3 is when my parents bought me the Nintendo NES, and I'm pretty sure they were probably told by the people in the store, yes, this is what's hot and what everybody's going to be buying and loving. And, well, for that day and that age, I did. Anyway, this is just another little short video, and let's see, the VCS, Nolan Bushnell, and all those guys, and Atari, when they first started out, it was amazing, incredible. They were on top of the world. I know many people didn't really notice beyond maybe the $5 games and bargain bins and all back then. The industry and market crash of '83 as it was, but that's kind of where things kind of started to go downhill. But it didn't kill off the VCS 2600 either. As a matter of fact, it didn't kill off much of anything then. It just kind of, people were naive. They thought that video games had been kind of like, how do you say, a little bit of a passing fad, but I'll tell you something about that. Something that's fun, innovative, new technology, and that people love, you're going to have a hard time killing off. Passing fad my rear. Anyway, yeah, coming up on the next video, we'll get into doing a little bit of review of the original pack-in game for the Atari VCS 2600, the Combat. And, well, probably going to go with emulation on that one, especially with the Atari VCS 2600. I have, I think, well over 50 original library games on cartridge and a few homebrew games. But there's a lot more that I have that I am able to do through emulation, which, personally, I prefer original hardware and original game cartridges where I can, but, emulation can save space on your collecting. It can help keep alive those games which are either very rare or obscure that they might be totally gone, so it helps with game preservation. It can save you on cost some, and, I know some people aren't really into it, but me personally, I don't have a problem with emulation, although it's not really my preference in every case, but whatever works. As a matter of fact, some of my favorite YouTubers, like Mr. Brian Pudding of Brian's Man Cave, tends to use emulation a fair deal too, as I understand it. And I'm sure some of the others do, at least to a degree. So, if you look down on emulation, that's you, but to me, it's just another good compliment to our arsenal of being able to keep up with our classic gaming as we would like to, and that's what I shoot for. Anyway, gosh, I do really need to get a haircut and shave at some point, don't I? Could look worse. Brian Puddin', you could stand to go ahead and give that beard a little bit of a comb or a small trim. I noticed your last couple of videos, it's been looking a little bit long down here. I'm not much one to speak. I'll probably be looking worse by the time I go to the barber again, so. Anyway, just giving you a little bit of a hard time. Anyway, you guys all take care, and I'm going to get to work a little bit later on getting that little review video on Combat going. And we should be getting into it a little bit more. Personally, I guess I don't have to tell you guys this, but I'm technically disabled and on a fixed income. I don't have much else to do with my time, so at least to put out a little bit of a simple, short video for you guys off and on shouldn't take me all that long. Again, I don't have a capture device yet or anything like that, and I'm just using my smartphone, so I apologize if the quality of these videos is not absolutely superb, but we'll get there at some point, and I hope everybody enjoys it anyway. Everybody take care, and I will see you guys again in the next video.